Welcome to The Connector Life with Kimber Booth, a blog of insights for connectors who are experts at connecting and uniting people, knowledge, and resources. And their success stems from bringing a level of energy and clarity for themselves and others. Tonight we're talking about the language of appreciation. I figured with Valentine's Day, just happening, my husband and I were talking about our language of appreciation at home, or what's commonly referred to as the languages of love. And so I thought more about my experiences by using the 5 languages of appreciation. So I wanted to ask you tonight, have you ever felt a lack of appreciation at work or at home? We'll focus more on work today. Do you feel valued at work? Well, many people don't, and unfortunately, it is a common reason why people leave their jobs. So I want to share with you today some of my experiences with this and some tools that are in the book, The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace by Dr. Chapman and Dr. White. So appreciation is communicating a sense of value for the work that your team members do, or for their character. And that tends to be a little bit harder to show appreciation for, is people's character. We do see that job satisfaction, as I mentioned, is very much tied to employee engagement, which is very much tied to appreciation. Studies show that less than 30% of employees are feeling engaged, and those come from Gallup polls. And at the same time, we know that data shows that 64% of employees leave their jobs for not feeling appreciated. So it's unfortunate. And many people burn out this way. And we know work-life balance and stress are really important. And its findings is that a lack of appreciation is a cause for that burnout. What we do see is that if we can show appreciation in the workplace or at home, we do see that everyone thrives. The manager thrives and the employee thrives because everybody is feeling appreciated. So why don't we feel appreciated at work? What the researchers have shown is that different people respond to different types of appreciation, and they refer to this as the languages. Everybody wants to have appreciation express them in different ways. And there are different ways to communicate that. So you may have heard of Dr. Gary Chapman from the languages of love, or the love languages that I mentioned briefly. He took his learnings from that and transitioned it to the workplace and wrote this book with Dr. White called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. And what they looked at was identifying, by researching and studying lots of people, what was their primary language of appreciation at work, what was your secondary, and then which was the least meaningful to you. So the least meaningful is important because people who, they don't tend to show appreciation for somebody in their own least meaningful way. And I'll talk to you about what those ways are in just a moment. I mentioned to you my husband and I recently were talking about this related to the 5 love languages, and towards the end of our session today, I'll share with you some of our personal insights, but it's very, very revealing about how we communicate. So what are some key principles related to the 5 love languages, languages of appreciation? First of all, it's important to note that they must be individualized. You have to have that message of appreciation personally delivered to the person and individual for that person. It must be valuable to the recipient, so it must be in their language of appreciation. That individual will value a certain language more than another, and as I mentioned, that relates to what is known as the primary or the secondary language. When a message is relayed to somebody and it's not in their primary or secondary language, it usually will miss the mark. So if it's in a least valued message for that person, it's going to miss the mark. And while the manager may be thinking that they're expressing huge gratitude and appreciation, at the end of the day, that person is not hearing that and not receiving or feeling that. So it is unfortunate, and that's why there's an opportunity to learn what the the languages of appreciation are. And the 5 languages they're very much the same as what they are in the love languages, just more for work. And so there are nuances related to that, but they found in their research that the same languages apply to work and at home for the love languages. So what are they? The first one is words of affirmation. The second one is acts of service. Third is quality time. 4 are gifts, tangible gifts. And 5 is physical touch. All right, don't laugh at that last one. I know the first time we did this in my workplace as a group and we were reading about physical touch, it did seem a little odd in the workplace, but I'll talk through that a little bit. So let's talk about words of affirmation. What does that mean? This really is what it sounds. You're using your words to communicate affirmation to somebody. And usually this can be either one-on-one or in a group setting. So where you're positively giving somebody praise for the work they've done, or again for their character, this is words of affirmation. So usually we're affirming people's accomplishments, but as I mentioned, it's nice sometimes to affirm somebody's character. So somebody's values, you can get deeper with somebody if you recognize their values, and they will really appreciate that. This, again, can be done in a variety of settings. It's important to note that if you are going to do it in a public setting, that also can be a turnoff for some people who may not want public praise. So that's important to find out. For acts of service, when it comes to an act of service in the workplace, this could be just simply asking somebody, how can I help you? And this can be very valuable to individual employees who like people to chip in and help them. For others, though, it could be a downside. So actually, this is one for me that I do not like in the workplace. I tend to feel that if somebody's offering to chip in and they're not trusting or valuing me, I'm more likely to go and ask them for help if I need it, and then I appreciate it if they respond, but not to just offer it. Where for others, this can be very important, and especially when people are feeling stressed, if people don't chip in, this can again just demoralize people and make them feel less engaged and more likely to leave. It's important when you're using this acts of service in the workplace that you do prioritize your own work and you get that done, because you don't want your manager to be upset with you, but you also want to definitely help other people if you know that this is their language of appreciation. The third area is quality time. So this is where you can give that employee attention and time. And that time can take a multitude of presentations. And actually at this point, I think I'd like to take one step back and just say that when we think about appreciation at work, it's not always a top-down approach. It can definitely be from peers or even from employees. As you move up the ladder, you tend to get less appreciation, but it is just as important, and it's important to get it from the top, above you, from the sides with your peers, and then from below you from your employees. So it's really important that everybody thinks about how to demonstrate appreciation and express it in each individual's language. So back to quality time. When we think about quality time, again, it can be one-on-one time. It can be shared experiences together, group events, things like that, where maybe you go out as a team after a big project is done or a big event is complete. It could also be, smaller settings, or where you have the ability to work with a colleague closely on a project, especially if it's somebody who you feel is a mentor to you, maybe your manager. If you get to work more closely on a project, that can be, quality time for people. I would try to do this at work. I have to admit, maybe I haven't been so good at this lately. Taking people out to lunch, having that time, lunch, coffee, etc., Going for a walk. I used to do this a lot in the past and need to find a new walking path where I'm currently spending my days, where, that is seen as quality time and can be valued by many people. And so, while I'm going through these, I want you to be thinking about, which of these languages speak more closely to you. Where I will talk to you, there is an official way to find out what your languages of appreciation are, and I'll share that with you in a little bit. So the fourth area is tangible gifts, and this is either, physical items or money. And I think this is important to me in the workplace, and for many people it is, but definitely research has shown that in general, this tends to not be as important as the other areas. And when we look at this, some companies have trouble doing this. At the end of the day, it's not always the gift itself, it's because it's not personalized or individualized. So where you see big gifting programs happening in companies, it's because, one single gift is purchased for, the whole company or every employee, and it's not individualized, and maybe people don't want that. And it's better to make it more individual. If you are going to do a gift, get tickets for somebody to their favorite concert, tickets for this person to a play, a gift card to their favorite store here, or, decorations for their office, what have you. Learning what people's preferences are important when it comes to tangible gifts. Another idea that's expressed in the book is, giving people time off can definitely be seen as a tangible gift. And of course, the tried and true food. We tend to do this a lot at work, where we will, have a gathering, a celebration, and food is the way we are celebrating and showing appreciation. So now we're at the fifth, and it is physical touch. And I know it seems funny when you think about it in the workplace. And really, their research definitely shows that this is, less common, less of a need, less at the forefront. Of course, for the love languages, it's huge, right? Very important when it comes to the love languages, and one of the most important overall. When you look in the workplace, this is still valuable though, because we are human beings. We do like touch. We are physical people. When you look at touch though in the workplace, this is not inappropriate touch. This is like handshakes. It is high fives. It is, maybe grabbing somebody's shoulder. Hugs sometimes, hugs where it's brief, where it's either a hug in support or a hug hello or a hug positive. If that's part of the culture, people tend to feel closer. And it's important to know, and excuse me, I definitely learned, I've had employees who really don't like physical touch, and I'm definitely a hugger, so I learned quickly to kind of try and assess that first before invading people's space. So those are the 5 languages. Which ones resonate with you? I'll share with you some of my thoughts in my languages, which are at work. I briefly mentioned to you that tangible gifts tend to be important for me. So I do like that. And then actually at work, quality time was important. So when I've had the opportunities to spend more time with my managers, my mentors, I have enjoyed that. And if I had the opportunity to visit with the president of the company, those were things that I actually did find quite valuable. So after I completed a project or was successful or won an award, I did like those opportunities. So when you look at home, though, this is the interesting fact. So completely the opposite. When I look at my languages of appreciation or my languages of love at home, they really are words of affirmation. So feeling love and support verbally from my spouse is important, as well as from my kids, as well as acts of service. So while I don't like acts of service in the workplace, I do enjoy acts of service at home. It's weird because I know my husband doesn't quite understand that, and it's somewhat of a disconnect sometimes when we are communicating about this, but I don't know if it's because sometimes I feel like those like acts of service help me to be more relaxed. So when that act of service happens, then I feel more free to open up and express his languages of love. And I think that's why it can be a very good fit with us knowing each other's languages. So those are mine. I did find out my work languages more officially. There's definitely a more formal way. Dr. Chapman and White did create what they call an MBA, or Motivating by Appreciation Inventory. So the MBA inventory is a tool that you can take if you go on their website to the languages of appreciation. They will have this tool. You can just pay for it just for one-off, or you can buy it for a group of people, and you can do that assessment and do it for yourself. You can also do it formally as a team effort. So that's what we did in my past, where the whole team took the MBA inventory, and we were able to learn then and share in a workshop what each other's languages were. And it was very insightful, and it definitely helped us to practice going forward, how can we express appreciation. And I learned a tremendous amount from that activity. There's also informal ways of doing this. Of course, when you're looking at observing people's behavior, what do they respond to when you do things for them? How do they respond? You know, observe the requests they're making, and observe any complaints that they might be making. Because if they're complaining about one way of doing things, you can think about the opposite being their preferred way. So that is really some of the main topics I wanted to cover today when you talk about the languages of appreciation. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about this. Really, what I want you to do next is think about which of these languages most resonates with you. Again, you really want to think about what's your primary, what's your secondary language, and then what is least valuable to you, because you want to know which one is least valuable to you, because you will tend not to express that for other people, or you will tend to ignore that that is a need for others. So thank you. I appreciate and honor you for joining me on this session on the languages of appreciation. If you found value in this video, please make sure to like it, and then like or subscribe my page. Or you can visit my website, kimberbooth.com, to sign up for regular insightful messages from me. And also, if you find this useful, maybe you want to share it with somebody else. I would really appreciate that. So thank you so much. Enjoy, be a connector, and excel your life. Thank you.